Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the Milwaukee Mile as it is the start of the playoffs here for the Great Lakes Truck Series presented by Patti Engineering. Flatout Racing Network going to bring you all the coverage here heading up to the championship of Season 7. Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez. 10 drivers made their way in via the top 10 in points for the regular season. Their road begins at the Milwaukee Mile. Now, I think we might have two different agendas here. You got those drivers that love the heavy braking zone short tracks like Milwaukee. They're going to be looking for those maximum points to get themselves in the next round. But then on the other side, you got drivers that may not be all so comfortable at short track racing. They're just going to try and survive today with as many points as they can muster.
And survive is the goal. Here's the thing. Look at the tracks we have coming up. We've got Talladega. We've got Homestead. We've got North Wilkesboro. Here's the thing. If you're probably not good at Milwaukee, Wilkes is going to be a different nightmare for you. But what you want to do is you want to try and maximize your points here. You don't want to fall through the field. So a good finish tonight could set you up for a really easy run.
Being ready here for the Lakefront Brewery 150 miles at this 1 mile racetrack, and Zach Henry lining up on the pole position, one of our playoff 10, if you will, and he's been fast all night long. He was up at the top of the board the entirety of practice, laid down a blistering lap time here to start in the pole position, so it kind of looks like driver number 12 might be the one to beat here this evening.
Yeah, but I wouldn't count out some of the other, some of the other fun factors that we have in the field. Obviously, I'm looking at William Barbagelata, or Barb, as we love to call him. I think he may have... I'm trying to figure out how to put it. He's a little bit flashy when it comes to the end of the season.
Keep an eye on Hunter Brittle there. He's going to be rolling off the grid 7th, but he kind of jumped up there into the 2nd spot on the speed chart in practice late. So we know that this is a track that's going to be all about preserving those tires, getting ready for the long run. Hunter Brittle might be a driver that's set up for the long run here, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. As you saw there, the top 20 drivers took time. We've got, I believe, 27 drivers that are going to take the green flag, and after 10 races of preparation, it's finally time for the first green flag to fly here. The playoffs about to begin, and it's all in the hands of that number 12 Toyota Tundra of Zach Henry, going to bring us down with the iRacing pace car to pit road, and we're playoff racing in the Great Lakes Truck Series.
And a really good start. Notice it looks like Ross Brockman back in 21st. He did not get going. Kind of stacked up the field back there, but no harm, no foul.
Inside line prevailing for Shane Neiswanger. He almost cleared Will Barbagelata for that 2nd spot as they remain double file going down into turn 3 for the 2nd position. You're going to see on the side of your screen, you'll be able to follow along with where the playoff drivers are currently running. They'll be highlighted with the blue. You can see a lot of them did very well in qualifying, 7 of them up inside of the top 10 here in the first couple of laps.
And just looking here, I'm seeing some guys that are not really even hesitating to be on the move. 2 guys that really come to my attention already have to be Hunter Brittle. And same for, looks like Austin Moore and Shane Neiswanger slowly working their way up the field.
Already up 2 spots from where he started. Hunter Brittle, Nathan Jump in the 83. You see him, the number 83 Bell Toyota Tundra back there. He picked up a spot. He's up to 7th place. A couple of drivers that have lost some position since the start. Matt Durr and Elliot Henderson back too.
Caution!
We got a wreck in the back. I think Gavin Fitzgerald, yes, as well as the 6 of Jackson Sims have gotten together. I believe that's up in turn 4. The first caution of the day here at Milwaukee, and that's a lot of damage. Man, that smoke pouring from out from underneath the number 6 Delta machine of Jackson Sims. That could be race over already.
And that's not what Sims needed. Sims came in at really the very, very bottom of the standings that we're really seeing. And this is going to be a huge hit for him. Looks like he even towed.
Started this race from the 12th position. Let's take a look and see what happened. Might have been a couple of other drivers collected up in this. I think Vern Hawkins III might have gotten a piece because I noticed he had lost a ton of track position. I believe that Fitzgerald, Sims, and Hawkins all started up from 12th through 13th.
It actually doesn't even look like this was caused by either Gavin or Jackson.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Looks like
Maybe some
got it.
gap whack there? It
Oh,
almost seemed
now
like
that you mention,
the 6 might have gap whacked into the back of the 14, because at least from that camera shot, it was kind of hard to tell, but it looked like there was space between the back bumper of Fitzgerald and the front bumper of Jackson Sims.
it really looks like maybe Sims wasn't expecting the amount of checkup that Gavin did. I'm a little bit iffy on that one.
Let's take another angle here and see. Oh, yeah, there is some contact, definitely into the right rear. Boy, that's some big hits there. Jackson Sims went like completely right front first into that outside wall. There is a safer barrier up there. It's a thin safer barrier, but it's definitely there.
What could have happened is he could have been racing Vern Hawkins on the bottom and just kind of lost his point of reference. And by the time that Gavin already checked up, Jackson was still at full bore.
It's a great point. We're going to go on board here with Jackson Sims. And yeah, there's just so much that you have to be aware of. And well, some people don't consider it short track racing if it's a mile in length. It has to be less than a mile, but I consider it short track racing if it's heavy braking zone like this. And I think you're right. I think he was concentrating on making sure he gave room to Hawkins on the inside line, that he just wasn't aware of the braking zone of Gavin Fitzgerald. And only 3 laps in, Gavin Fitzgerald already done for the day, brought his truck back behind the wall, and Jackson Sims looks like they're going to try and get him back out there, but he's got a lengthy stay on pit lane.
I mean, doesn't matter. I mean, right now he's in the worst pit situation possible. He is really last of the playoff cars. He is pretty much dead last, only ahead of Gavin Fitzgerald. He needs to try any bit to get back on track. Just try to make laps, because if some guy in front of him has misfortune, he needs to keep going.
And even more importantly, to do that kind of a strategy is because next week we've got another wild card track that you don't know if you're going to be leaving on the tow hook or not, and that's Talladega Superspeedway. So if you run into trouble here today, as long as that engine has still got enough power to get you back out there and log laps, you've got to do it.
Well, the big thing to remember is this is not winning you're in. You have to really accumulate points the best you can. So any race that you can just keep logging points is better than no points.
And let's remember, too, you mentioned no winning you're in and no rounds in the playoffs. So it is accumulating the most points in 7 races, and a lot of tough tracks on the schedule, including Talladega. We'll be talking about some of the other ones on the schedule a little bit later on, but Henry got us back under the green flag. The battle for second was Niswanger versus Barbagelata. That time, though, Niswanger was able to make the top line work against the 27.
I'm looking. The top line is not usually my go-to at Milwaukee, but I'm kind of wondering how long it may remain viable for, because obviously you're churning the tires a lot more on that high line. That right front's going to be taking a lot of the brunt of that weight.
Austin Moore trying that top line there, to your point, and it looked like he was a little loose coming off of turn 4, so starting to maybe already lose some of that rear grip.
Yeah, and it's just the idea of, I get the point of going where someone's not, but right now, with it being so early in the race, I'd be looking maybe long-term, or some of these guys may have the idea of, hey, let's go experiment a little. Let's go have fun. Let's go figure out what these cars can do.
Riding on board with Austin Moore, one of our playoff drivers, right now the second highest of the playoff contenders on track, just 2 trucks ahead. You can see Shane Niswanger. I mean, Zachary Henry, you can see he's not highlighted in blue. He is not one of the playoff contenders here this season, so you know, the win in your in scenario that we normally see at the playoff races, and you have a driver that's a non-playoff contender coming in and winning during the playoffs, that's not necessarily something that's going to frustrate playoff contenders here this year, because there's no guaranteed spot into the next round of the playoffs. None of that type of a scenario. So big opportunity for a driver like Zach Henry to go out there, be aggressive, treat this as if this was a race during the regular season.
And as much as I may have criticized Henry in the past, Henry is a good driver in his own right. So him missing the playoffs is kind of surprising to me, but that doesn't really limit his ability to go out there and compete for wins every single week. I would not be surprised if he gets 1 or 2 before the season ends.
There's 5th place battle. Actually, this is a good 3-way battle for 4th between playoff drivers. Austin Moore in the 91, Hunter Brittle in the 10, and who can mistake the bright green number 37 of Elliott Henderson there, currently holding down that 6th position. A couple of other playoff drivers you see just back there, Ashton Lawson in the 24, and then the 2 of Matt Durr. These drivers, at least for right now, they want to keep the other playoff contenders within striking distance, but we already touched on it a little bit. Milwaukee, any mile racetrack, wears down on these Goodyear tires. If we continue to trend towards a long green flag run, pit road may be the most pivotal part of the racetrack here in this first playoff race because a lot of times it all depends on when you make that pit stop as to whether you're going to come in on the plus side or the minus side once everything cycles around.
One playoff guy that I'm really seeing on the slide right now, and I'm not exactly sure why. It has to be Matt Durr. Started up in fourth and just has fallen back through the field, almost outside of the top 10 now.
Yeah, I've noticed actually a couple of drivers that are playoff contenders have fallen back. You mentioned about the two of Matt Durr, -5, and also Michael Sensi in the 92, -6 from his ninth place starting position. He's dropped outside of the top 10 all the way back to 15th place. So the one thing that I can maybe wonder about those two is it that they're not pushing it that hard. They're letting drivers on by, letting them use up their equipment, and then we'll start to see them maybe slowly make forward progression through the field once everybody's tires have worn down and they've been able to kind of preserve their equipment.
It could be, or hey, it can always be another of those things of maybe we're just not comfortable with the car in this state. Hey, they practiced with the car and it felt like this. They qualified the car, it felt great. And then in the race, maybe the car just doesn't feel that great. And you're trying to get back to grips with it, you're trying to readjust. Another guy I'm seeing on the move, though, has to be Darling in the 4. Already drove his way up into 11th. He's knocking on the door of the top 10 currently. He's chasing down Eric Kep.
I believe Darling was third on the speed charts during practice, and yeah, started very deep in the field, 20th position. Now, granted, he picked up a chunk of spots after we had our first caution with a few drivers around up in turn number 1, but he slowly, methodically continued to work his way forward, up +9 and knocking on the door of the top 10. Driver he's trying to reel in is that number 63 of Eric Kempf, who, tough break there for Eric Kempf because they had their regular season finale at Indianapolis, and Kempf almost was able to point his way into the top 10, but came up just a little bit short. I think it was 16 points shy of that final 10th position that Michael Sensi was able to get.
The big thing I'm really getting out of this, I mean, look at that 4 car. He's a little bit loose, but he's got that blue banner on. Hey, he started all the way back in 20th. He is capitalizing on what may have been a bad start. He is trying to work it forward where, hey, maybe this is not going to be his best track, but at least carrying the momentum forward to Talladega, to Homestead, and keeping yourself up higher where when we get to those tracks that you're really good at, you can capitalize.
We're watching this battle for second. This has been going on for the last couple of laps. Shane Neiswanger and Will Barbagelata, they can't get away from each other. They were side by side at the drop of the green flag. They were side by side on the first restart, and Barbagelata, slide job maybe? Yes, he made it stick.
Barb sent it. I didn't think he'd get it woe down in time, but managed to make it stick.
How tough is it when you're a non-playoff driver to kind of as a mentality figure, okay, I'm battling somebody that's battling for a championship. I don't want to wreck them, but at the same time, I've got an obligation to my team to go out there and get the best finish possible. I've got to be aggressive to get the spot, but at the same time, I don't want to be overly aggressive and take myself out of the race and them out of a championship.
I mean, for me, it's kind of do I know the guy? I mean, how does he normally race? But it's also, hey, this is a perfect time to start checking or start cashing checks for maybe incidents that happened earlier in the season of, okay, well, maybe you haven't been that nice to me, or maybe you ran me a little bit hard here and there. Let me go ahead and return the favor when you need it.
Battle here. Jared Darling going to break into the top 10, and Brent Kincott's going to follow him into 11th as both of them going to get around the 63 of Eric Kempf. I actually noticed that Kincott has also been picking up the spot. So we got a caution. It is, I believe, Vern Hawkins the third, around on the front straightaway.
Just looking here, he looks like it may have just been a single car loop. Looks like turn 4 strikes again.
There is some right front damage. That may have been from the previous incident with Gavin Fitzgerald and Jackson Sims, because Vern Hawkins did get involved, but we'll see here as we go back and look at a replay if he made any contact with this spin over in 4, or if it might have just been one of those harmless spins. bringing out the second caution of the day, and I don't think he hit anything. Might have brushed the right rear
Yeah, I'm
into that
looking at
outside
how
wall.
I was kind of looking how he entered that corner. It looks like he got a little bit low on that yellow rumble strip almost. And as soon as he got back to the out of turn 4, got back on the gas maybe just a little bit too early, it just came right on around. Did a good job not hitting anything else, but obviously that's not the start that you want to your race.
Taken on board here with the truck that was right behind him, the 13 of Lewis Woodall. He got a pretty good view of what took place there. And but what's it got to be when you've got such a tight corner where the trucks are going to push up towards that outside wall off of turn 4, and you see somebody looping around in front of you? You're just hoping and praying they spin down to the left. Otherwise, your lane's probably blocked.
King Lou is cool as a cucumber. He just drove right on by that, but that's the real risk of you have to predict what's going to happen, and it's always the risk of someone's going to overcorrect, maybe drive back into your lane, and I don't have enough reaction time.
Caution out for the second time today, and we've got some pit strategy playing out here. Looks like Lewis Woodall and Brent Kingcott, they're going to stay out. Zach Henry and company, they all hit pit road. Henry the first off of pit lane. We'll see if Brent might be just maybe staying out to get a lap led and then pit the second time by, but if he does stay out, that'd be some very interesting strategy, because we're talking 22 lap old tires for Kingcott, 17 lap old tires for Lewis Woodall, and then fresh rubber for everybody else, third place on back for this upcoming restart.
I mean, I could see the idea here that we have spent a few laps under caution out of East 22, and maybe he wasn't pushing as hard as he possibly could. I could see this working, but I'm a little bit iffy about this strategy.
I'm not necessarily certain about him not pushing as hard as he possibly could, because he was actually on the move, making his way up through the field. He had picked up, I think, 5 spots since the last restart. He was following in the tire tracks of Darling, who we know was also slicing his way up through the field. So
Could always be trying to save a set, but
yeah, that could be.
I don't think. I mean, they've got 6 tire sets for this race, 1 on the car, 5 in the pits. I'm iffy on that.
But remember too, you can see up on the top left, Kingcott is not a playoff driver, so it gives you a little bit more leverage to kind of go outside the box in terms of strategy. If it doesn't work, well, okay, you tried it at least, but you're not throwing away playoff points.
Yeah, so I mean, it busts out in a way, but like I said, it's a little concerning.
Yeah, we'll see if it works out for him. He will, more than likely, I think they'll get the 1 to green this time. We'll see which lane he chooses. Zach Henry will line up to either his outside or inside. In second place, Will Barbagelata, Shane Nightswonger, Austin Moore going to be the top 5, and then it will be Elliot Henderson, Hunter Brittle, Ashton Lawson, Ross Brockman, and Nathan Jump. I haven't mentioned Ashton Lawson a whole lot. He was actually very fast in practice as well, and he's just kind of been lingering back there around the 7th, 8th position since we started this race. I think he'll be getting up here in the conversation as we get longer into the run.
One guy who's been kind of flying a little bit under the radar for me has to be Elliot Henderson. I mean, we know how dangerous he is in these trucks, and it's odd to see him not try to take charge at the beginning of the race, but I would not be surprised if the laps wind down that he gets closer and closer to that front end.
Update on the drivers that were involved in the first caution. We already mentioned that Gavin Fitzgerald was out of the race. Jackson Sims, they have made repairs to his race truck. They've gotten him back out there, but he is 19 laps down. So he's hoping for a race of attrition here as we get ready to go back green flag race. And let's see how those old tires of Brent Kingcott hold up here through 1 and 2.
Well, he goes down the corner all nice, but hey, we're still getting up to speed. Oh, man, I'm looking at Zach Henry. Looks like he wants to power through on the outside.
He's going to find the grip. Almost ran out of the room, though, there. He almost brushed the outside wall off of turn 2. Kingcott saying, if you're going to pass me on those fresh Goodyears, you're going to have to do it the long way.
And that's how he's really going to make these tires prolong, is he's going to hug that bottom line. He's going to force everyone to go around the outside. It's either going to be you're burning up your tires, or you can be a roadblock on the bottom line, try to stack them up. As you see right behind Shaden Nyswanger, kind of all waiting stacked up.
He knows the situation. He knows he's got old tires. Pushes him up off of turn 2, and we might be 3 wide down the back straightaway. Barbagelata is clear for second.
This is definitely going to make things a little bit sketchier on that high line. Oh.
just barely clears this Austin Moore around the outside of the one, but very impressive there. Those first couple of laps of that restart of Brent Kincott able to hold it down there on the bottom. One thing I was slightly concerned about is with the flat banking into turn one and the fact that it's, oh, we
Caution's
got
out.
caution out.
Oh, big wreck in the back. Big wreck in two.
Woodall around. We're looking at James Shiplet. I think Aaron McKernan, I think he might have come to a stop. Michael Barbagelata, I believe, got involved. The 29 of Vern Hawkins the third, he got a piece of it.
And it
And
looks
Rod Fastnow's got some damage, I think, in the 16. Oh yeah, it's a lot of damage actually on the FedEx machine.
Man, there's a lot of good cars in this that are torn up. And
Boy.
looks like the playoff contender though. That's the harder part.
Emilio Paredes, he's got damage on that Matt Crafton,
One
Slim
guy-
Jim Menards looking Toyota.
One guy who's jumping up and down about this has to be Jackson Sims. He's hoping they hit a
Yes.
little bit harder than they would have liked.
Now let's see just exactly how hard the hits were over there.
Oh,
More
no.
than a half dozen drivers involved, and not certain who this starts with.
Looks like he may have gotten a little bit of assistance.
Does it start with the 22? Michael Barbagelata, a little loose there off of 4. Oh,
no,
yeah, he got a...
No, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff Johnson in the 82. That's the second time today we've seen somebody not aware of the lifting point or the braking zone of somebody going into one.
I mean, that was exactly a mirror instant of what happened to Gavin Fitzgerald. And I just looked. Lewis Woodall came flying into that wreck.
Another of our playoff drivers was collected up in this as well. Didn't get a whole lot of damage, but the 23 of Spencer Owens, I noticed, was in the vicinity there.
Yeah, it looks like Spencer Owens actually ended up getting a little bit of left front contact from the spinning Vern, but ended up getting driven into by Rod Fashnav.
Actually we had the initial wreck, and then a number of these drivers that got collected up afterwards, some of them slowed and some of them didn't. The 66 of Emilio Paredes, he slowed down, and Rod Fastnow didn't get the memo, and he bumped into the back of the 66, spinning him into the wreck. So we ended up having some wrecks and some follow-up wrecks. I think James Shiflett as well in the 28. I think he got hit from behind and sent into the incident.
I mean, he sent him same-day delivery.
Here's the 13 of Lewis Woodall you were talking about, and
Oy.
oh, well, okay. To be fair though, he was on the brakes and the back end came around. Apparently, these things with the slick conditions, they're not all that easy to stop on a dime.
I can't completely fault Lewis because obviously, if there's a chance that you can get through this, you never know what's going to happen on a short track or a small track where it's completely flat. You don't know where the cars are going to go. You don't know who's going to try to gas it back up to get out of the way. So I do understand him trying to get through the accident quickly. It just, unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's either you're making it through fine or you're hitting someone.
It's our third caution of the day, coming around to complete the 30th lap here at the Milwaukee Mile. No surprise, Brent Kincott came to pit road here under this caution period, as did Breyer Fritz, Ross Brockman, Jeff Johnson, and a few others, but this will take Lewis Woodall and Vern Hawkins the third out of the race. They're going to join Gavin Fitzgerald back in the garage area. That's 2 positions right there open for Jackson Sims to be able to pick up. I mean, it may not seem like much, but 24th is a heck of a lot more points payout than 26th.
And it's going to be like this. And really what Jackson needs to do is he needs to keep himself motivated of, listen, you know that you're fighting for maybe a sub 20 position, but it's just knowing that, hey, every point's going to make my life easier going into the next weeks. It's going to make this a whole lot easier. Think of the big picture here.
And you're ready for the restart on lap 32. Emilio Paredes on pit road getting repairs done to that number 66. 2 laps down by last count, and may fall further a couple of laps down as they still continue to repair, and we'll be going back to green flag conditions. Zach Henry back out in front. Will Barbagelata back to his outside. It's almost as if we're starting this race from the very beginning. You got Nice Wonger in third, Austin Moore in fourth, and Hunter Brittle up in that 5th position. Green flag back in the air.
And Zach Henry gets out to an amazing start, but I'm seeing Barb kind of block off that bottom lane. He knows that's the preferred line, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it down there. Nice Swanger got his nose in it, but isn't able to make it.
Yeah, Nice Swanger was in a battle for third with Austin Moore and got a nice rotation through the center of 1 and 2. Was able, to your point, get to the left rear quarter panel of Barb Gelada at least for a moment. So that 49 able to hook the bottom, and we saw just a couple of drivers try and make passes on the high side, but it's a tougher way, it's a longer way, and it's more abusive on the tires. So if you're able to hook the bottom like Nice Swanger was able to, that might be the recipe into maybe getting yourself to the front in that clean air.
Nice Swanger looks like he's having the good rotation in the car, but just doesn't have the straight line speed that the top two have.
Stacked up behind them. Ooh, Ashton Lewis showing the nose there, but not doing anything with it on Hunter Brittle for that 5th position. They're pretty stacked up here from 3rd place on back, but I'm also noticing we may momentarily have to jump up to the front because that gap between the 27 and the 12, it closed up a ton that last time off of turn 4.
Yeah, it looks like Barb's figured out something, or maybe it's just a little bit of Henry's draft that's kind of helping him along, but whatever it is, it's slowly closing it.
And again, look on the left side of your screen. You've got 7 of our 10 playoff drivers right now up inside of the top 10. 8 of them up inside the top 12 there with Sensi. The only 2 drivers right now that have encountered issues today at the Milwaukee Mile. Jackson Sims, who currently is 26th, and Spencer Owens, who was involved in that last incident, but still on the lead lap back in 20th.
Just kind of looking back through the field here. It looks like everyone's kind of settled down single file. Looks like Brent Kingcott's still kind of sliding back through the pack. I think the reason that he was so brave with staying out was he was wanting to save that set of tires. He actually looks like he came down that last caution.
But the thing that's interesting, I'm looking at that. Oh, Hunter Brittle, what a save. I don't know if he got loose or got a little help from Elliott Henderson, but he was all sorts of slideways out of turn 4. Now the battle will be on between those two for that 6th position through 1 and 2. But going back to what we were talking about there with Kingcott, yeah, came down, took on fresh tires, but he, as well as Brockman and Fritz, they've only picked up 1 spot each, bypassing James Shiflin, the 28. So apparently it doesn't matter if you've got fresh tires or old tires. If there's not a huge difference into what number of lap tires you have between the rest of your competition, it's still very hard to be able to make passes.
Man, I've looked at Brittle. Oh, right behind Nathan Jump. Almost lost it in the 1. But really, Brittle had to pay for a mistake. It wasn't any contact by Elliott Henderson. He just got his left sides down on that rumble strip, just lost the back end. Lost 2 positions out of that. He should have lost 3 with Nathan Jump, but Jump made a mistake, gave him a little bit of line on the bottom. But it's almost, this is a higher speed Martinsville, and it's these mistakes that lose you the bottom line, that lose you that preferred line. They're going to cost you.
Very wide lane there through 3 and 4 for Nathan Jump. That's Matt Dewar making his way on by. Move the 2 up to 9th. And now Eric Kemp going to take advantage. He's going to move into that 10th position. I'm wondering if that was a product of the 83 just having a very ill-handling race truck, or kind of getting freight trained on that outside line. But you see, again, kind of pushed up there by Michael Sensi. I think that... oh, whoa, there's some smoke there. Off of turn 4. Oh, we got a looper. That's Darling in the 4. No caution.
And he did a good job. Never actually truly looped the car, but got his left sides all the way down in that rumble strip, almost onto the grass, and it just kicked out that back end. He did a good job locking the car down. Almost drove it back into the field.
Was 7th, and after that little, we'll call it a half loop there off of turn 4, back to 18th. Now we know he's got a fast truck, but you'd have to think that a spin like that, warming up those tires, maybe lighten those tires up, is not going to do him any favors here for the handling of that truck for the remainder of this run.
And the big thing I think it plays is more mentally. This is really a more mental game than it actually is kind of repetition, where if you start getting in your head of, oh man, that was a dumb mistake, I just lost 5-10 positions out of that, you're going to start driving a little bit harder. You're going to start driving a little bit angrier. When you start driving a little bit angry, you start making those mistakes.
Looking at Brent Kingcott, he just picked up a spot on Briar Fritz. Those two are on equal footing as far as their good years. And going to kind of put a bee in your bonnet here, because we notice Shane Neiswanger currently running the highest of the playoff contenders right now. They ran one other super speedway this season opener at Daytona International. We go to Talladega next week. Guess who won the Daytona race? Shane Nicewanger. So, I think that the drivers, they're going to be a little bit nervous if Nicewanger is the playoff contender that accumulates the most points here tonight, and then heads into an area that he's already proved that he's strong at in terms of super speedway racing.
Well, I mean, I'll take you one more. I mean, look at the trends. Nicewanger won race 1 and race 2 at both Daytona and Rockingham. That's kind of what I'm looking at here, where, hey, Nicewanger on a momentum streak is kind of what scares me more than, hey, Nicewanger coming out and winning a super speedway race.
Shane Nicewanger, during the course of the first 10 races, was 5th in the final regular season standings. Hunter Brittle actually was the highest with 1 victory. Jared Darling had 2. Ashton Lawson had 2. Shane Nicewanger, as you already mentioned, he won the first 2 races of the season, and those were the only playoff contenders that picked up wins during the course of the season. You had a couple of drivers that didn't make the playoffs. William Barbagelata, currently running in 2nd. He went to victory lane twice this season, and then Tyrell Baker, in one of his 5 starts this year, also found victory lane. That was back at Dover. So not that many of the playoff drivers got into the playoffs with a victory. A lot of them got up into the top 10 in points just based off of consistency.
And the biggest thing about Nicewanger has been, I'm just taking a little bit of a look through the stats of the first 4 races on the season. Out of those first 4 races, Nicewanger only finished outside of the top 3. And 1 race was just Auto Club, and it looks like he actually got involved in an accident that took him out of that. I'd be kind of a little bit worried with Nicewanger on a momentum streak.
Ashton Lewis, we were following that battle between himself and Austin Moore for 4th. Lewis finally completes the pass. Elliot Henderson was trying to get up there, see if he could get into the vicinity to maybe take advantage as well of the 91, but not quite able to get there. Jared Darling, ever since he had the spin, believe it or not, he's actually picked up 2 spots up to 16th place and trying to close in on the wounded machine of Michael Barbagelata. You could see right there on that last shot, a lot of damage on the left front. How about that aero? How much does that play at a track like Milwaukee, a track that I would kind of think be more of a rhythm track, more about finesse than it would be about aero, but does it in any way affect a driver for the long run?
It surprisingly affects you a lot more than you think. It's just how the car feels entering the corner, how it feels exiting the corner. It just plows. And it makes a very nice race into a little bit more of a painful race. As it looks like Eric Kemp, he's falling back about 2-3 positions now. He got a little bit out of sight of that bottom groove and just slowly got shuffled out.
King Cod Nathan Jump, they're going to take advantage, shuffle him outside of the top 10 back to 12th. Jared Darling just made the pass on Michael Barbagelata, so move him up to 15th, and starting to notice that Zach Henry, the beautiful view he had out in front, he's had to deal with a couple of trucks here in the last couple of laps. The 16 of Rod Fastnow went a lap down, and I believe Jackson Sims went another lap down in the 6 truck, but nonetheless, looking here at the update, Jackson Sims, he is now up to 23rd. He bypassed Vern Hawkins III, Lewis Woodall, and Emilio Paredes, who is still sitting on pit road 19 laps down in the 25th position.
And the big thing I'm seeing with both the 6 and the 16 pretty off the pace is, again, that's going to be something that drivers have to deal with all day today. Because I just noticed that Senzi almost drove the back of Rod, but realistically, that is how tasks are going to be made here. If, hey, maybe a car is taking a preferred line, they jump up to a different line, but someone's brave enough to shove it 3 wide. That's what's going to happen where, people are getting more desperate to make passes. We're on lap 50 of 150. Race is running down.
And right on cue with what you were talking about there, using the slower traffic to be able to make a pass, Ross Brockman did that with Eric Kempf. They both caught 16 and the 6 last time by out of 4 and down the front straightaway. Lost a little momentum, did Kempf, when he pulled up behind that slower traffic, and Brockman was ready to pounce and move him now up to the 12th position.
And Eric is kind of a guy that I saw, and I thought he was going to have a really good start to the race, but he's kind of fallen off here a little bit, where it seems like the early confidence that he had maybe kind of falling off. Maybe he wasn't really prepared for this long of a run.
This may be the best battle here on the racetrack up inside of the top 5. Elliot Henderson Starting to close up onto the back of the 91 of Austin Moore. This is for 5th. Lost touch with Ashton Lawson a bit. He's starting to gap and try and see if he can reel in Shane Nice longer
Ooh.
for 3rd. And big send there for Elliott Henderson.
And I've been noticing Elliott's been kind of just ticking them down one by one. He seems a little bit more comfortable with this truck on a long run.
And Ashton Lawson, I think Lawson just got the wall there off of 4. Saw some smoke there. And I think he might have gotten
it looks like
the right rear.
Yeah, it looks like he just got a little bit of a wide entry out of 4. Just got a little love tap, but looks like the truck's still good.
Yeah, no visible damage on the right side of that machine, so dodges a bullet there. I'm almost wondering, that pass we saw for 5th, was that communication between Henderson and Moore, of Moore saying, hey, I realize you're reeling me in, I realize you're a little bit faster, I'm just trying to run my own pace, go on by me?
It wouldn't be surprising. But, I mean, here's the thing. Why hold up a faster car if, realistically, hey, he can go track down the guy in front of you, maybe help him drag you up to that guy in front of you. It seems like a win-win.
Elliott Henderson, we talked about the drivers that had victories this season that made it into the top 10 in points to compile our playoff contenders. Henderson was the highest driver in points that did not find victory lane. 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s, and the 10 starts in the regular season. 4th in overall points at the conclusion of the regular season. So victories are great and all, but considering the fact that we've already talked about it, no rounds in the playoffs, no winning you're in situation, consistency is key. So even if we don't see him pick up a checkered flag, maybe even the entirety of the playoffs, you have to think the consistency that Elliott Henderson showed during the regular season will put him in good stead in this type of playoff format.
But this, you got to keep in the back of your mind that, hey, consistent days make a bad day feel a little bit better. It doesn't make it as dire as a situation of, uh-oh, hey, I had 2 bad races in a row. I'm going to need to go out these next 2 races and basically just show out or go win the race. That's an unrealistic position to put yourself in. If you can make it where, oh, well, I've had some pretty good races. All I need is maybe another top 15, top 10. That's going to make you 10 times easier and 10 times happier going into the next race.
Got some cloud coverage starting to creep in here at the Milwaukee Mile. The entire track currently bathed in shadow. Interesting to see if that's going to maybe affect the handling of these trucks. We've run the first 50 laps or so with the track completely bathed in sunlight, and unless the sun peaks out again, these drivers, they may end up have a loose truck that trends tight or vice versa. We'll see if anybody is able to take advantage of the cloud cover, if it'll cool the track down just a little bit.
I think just looking at it, trying to figure out who adapts the best is definitely going to be here. One guy that I'd see keep kind of falling back, and I'm not sure if he's got a good handle on the track here at the moment, which may kind of sound funny, with his position, but it has to be William Barbagelata. Notice him slowly start to kind of keep falling back off of Zach Henry, and I don't think it's lack of trying, and I don't think it's really off of speed. It may just be the track's changing just a little bit.
Yeah, one thing I just noticed was both he and Zach Henry ran about 0.2 quicker this lap than they had the previous lap, which kind of says to me maybe that cloud cover is coming into play. But yeah, to your point, Zach Henry, he's running in the 31.2s. Barbagelata's running about 7, 8 tenths off, or 7 or 8 hundredths off of that. So,
which may not sound that bad. But
at
just
a short track, though, that's huge.
And just compared to the leader that he's trying to catch or chase down, it's a difference.
Let's go on board with Will Barbagelata, and let's take notice of the wheel motion here. Got some traffic up ahead he's going to have to deal with. That's Rod Fast now again in the 16. I think that's also the 6 of...
I was looking at that. I think both the 6 and the 16 are teammates of the 27. I think they actually were holding him up a little bit, trying to get Barb back to his bumper.
And they actually did a pretty good job of closing up that gap. Last time I looked, it was about 2.5 seconds. It's now been closed down to 1.5 seconds. So we saw right there, the little loose through the center, having to turn the wheel back to the right just a little bit, catch his race truck. Barbagelata back on the charge, and yeah, 0.2 quicker that last time by Zach Henry. They now deal with some more traffic up ahead here. That is Spencer Owens in the 23. That's not good. playoff contender going a lap down after being involved in the third caution of the day, back in that 21st position.
On a little bit of a brighter note, look at Jared Darling. Drove himself back up the P13, just got by Eric here maybe about 1 or 2 laps ago. He is still making some really good gains, running faster laps than Brockman in front of him. I think he could realistically even track down really that whole big pack with Jump, Senzi, and Brittle.
Very impressive there after he nearly bended off of turn number 4 after making his way up for the first time today into the top 10, and might be able to get back up into the top 10. Another thing that we got to look at here, for most of the drivers since we went back green, they are now completing their 40th circuit on this set of Goodyear tires. 90 laps to go. I don't know exactly if you know, but the fuel window here, let's say they can make it on one more stop. We went back green with 130 to go. If you split it in half, it's about 65.
It almost looked like Austin Moore was ready to put the back bumper to Hunter Brittle. They've been bouncing back and forth of each other here last few laps. It looks like it's going to be aided by the lap cars here just a little bit to bring them back closer, but just noticing these pack of 4 cars seem to be really just fighting each other hard.
And Moore's he's actually been steadily falling back. He was up in the 5th position, now back in 8th place. Oh, got a car on pit road. Nathan Jump, first one, throwing down the gauntlet potentially here for a round of green flag pit stops. He's down and away, and I was trying to figure out if these guys could make it on just one pit stop since we went back green. They might look to maybe split the this run in half, which would bring them to pit road in the next 20 to 23 laps. But with Nathan Jump on pit road, maybe this is going to be a 2-stop to the finish.
Yeah, I'm looking at those leaders and I'm trying to figure out, I think they may be trying to 1-stop it. So it may be the kind of difference between maybe a 1-stop or a potential 2-stop, where 2-stop you will have those fresh tires, but the 1-stop will be a lot quicker. I don't see tires being, I can see tires being a factor, but I can see some of these guys who are a lot better at taking care of their tires going a lot longer, maybe potentially doing the 1-stop.
Kincott on pit road. He would have been one of the drivers that had the freshest tires when we went back green. He came to pit road under the last caution period where the top 15 did not. So he, along with Nathan Jump, trying to short pit here. We'll see if it works out for them. Have a battle brewing for third. Ashton Lawson has reeled in Shane Neiswanger, trying to put the pressure on him here, potentially on the eaves of their first round of green flag pit stops. And that's the other thing, too. This is going to be the first time that they'll be coming to pit road under green flag conditions. We've had 3 cautions where drivers have been able to come down at pace. You do not want to get a speeding penalty here, because if you have to serve a pass-through, you are absolutely going to lose at least 1 lap, maybe 2 laps under green flag conditions.
And realistically, it's just discipline, trying to train your brain to say, yes, I need to get the best pit road entry and exit possible, because everyone I'm fighting in points, they're going to be pretty much maximizing their stop to the absolute brink of the edge of a penalty. But it's also realizing your situation, saying, okay, well, look, I could put myself in a lot worse situation here if I do end up speeding. So maybe playing it a little bit on the safe side could be something that'll help you out just a little bit later in the race.
Now, this is the risk reward that comes with strategies at short tracks. As you can see, both the 83 and the 1, with coming to pit road and making a pit stop here under green, they have fallen a lap down. They need this to remain green. They need this pit cycle to complete itself. They would then get back on the lead lap. If the caution were to come out now, neither one of them are in a lucky dog position. Zach Henry has been going to work putting drivers down a lap at the tail end of the field. Right now, he's worked his way all the way up to 16th place, Aaron McCarron, and put him a lap down. Right now, the 71 would be in the lucky dog position.
So we've really got our first time comparisons versus new tires and old tires. Look at Zach Henry. He's currently our leader. He ran a 31.6 that last lap. Last lap, Brett Kincott ran a 30.328. He's lapping about a second and change quicker. I mean, that just, I did not expect tire fall off to be that large, but I'm seeing some of the guys in the field even venturing into the 32s, really the low 32s. really, Brett is lapping about 1 to 2 seconds quicker than most guys in the field with new tires.
Brett Kincott, we mentioned, not a playoff contender, and he has taken strategy to the max here tonight. We saw him stay out after the second caution on older tires to try and see how he would stack up against the fresh tires of the entire rest of the field. He put up a fight for the first couple of laps against Zach Henry, but then with the following caution came to pit road, and now joining Nathan Jump, one of the earliest onto pit road, Hunter Brittle. How about that? He's going to hit pit road. That is the first of our playoff drivers coming to pit lane here under green.
Austin Moore dived in behind him. I think he was trying to stay on the same strategy. Austin Moore has really had some ill handling on that race car. He has not gotten a handle on it. Hopefully these new tires will kind of give him the reset he needs to get back going.
Now with playoff drivers hitting pit road, is that when we're going to start to see
Niswanger's in.
That's what I was just wondering. I thought I saw him dropping down there on the charts. Also coming in is Matt Durr, so there you go. Some playoff drivers hit pit road. Now all the rest of the playoff drivers taking notice, and they're coming to pit lane as well.
I'm kind of liking what Niswanger did here. I like diving on pit road just a little bit earlier than the leader. Hopefully maybe just getting a little bit of undercut and seeing the lap times that I've seen King Cod be able to run. I'm liking that undercut.
Had a quartet of playoff drivers on pit road that time. Niswanger, Matt Durr, Elliott Henderson, and Michael Sensi, all nose to tail down pit lane. Very close in terms of their pit stalls as well, as they had all qualified 4th, 6th, 7th, and 9th. So all in the same zip code there on pit lane and all leaving together. As Barb Gelada, he has closed up on Zach Henry. We saw how his teammates kind of helped him to reel him in, but now look at that. He got within about 2-3 truck lengths. Now he's on pit road. This could be a great call for that Shutters Toyota.
And honestly, I think that worked out perfectly. He got right on the bumper of Zach Henry, took his pit stop. If he does this perfection, takes 4, drives away. By the time Zach Henry comes in, I think using that 1 lap advantage, he may be able to leapfrog him.
Let's see if Zach Henry now is going to come to pit road with the 27 on pit lane.
I'd be shocked if he didn't. He didn't?
He did not. Wow.
Huh. That's an interesting strategy. I'm trying to wonder what he has cooked up here.
Yeah, remember, the 12 and the 27 that we've been watching here battling for this lead, neither one are battling for the championship. They just want to get the checkered flag here today. 2 entirely varying strategies. Ashton Lawson also on a bit of his own strategy there. He is the playoff driver that stayed out the longest, now into the attention of his crew. So we'll see if 2 or 3 lap fresher tires for him, if that's going to pay any dividends, as Henry is in from the race lead.
And that puts Ross Brockman here in just a moment. That puts him in command of the race if he doesn't drive down pit road.
Trying to find the 27. 27 last time out. Up, he hasn't laid down an official out lap yet. Just waiting to see if he's going to... Most of the drivers on fresh tires, they've gone out there and run in the low 30s. And Barbara Gelada, we'll see what his out lap is. Oh, there you go. 30.1. I think he's going to cycle around to the lead. I don't see how Zach Henry's going to be able to hold him off.
And the big thing is he just set the fastest lap in the field of the race. That's the fastest lap of the race, 30.102. That shatters the previous fastest from Zach Henry of 30.203, which really makes me wonder when Henry gets back out on new tires, I mean, what is he going to be able to pull?
Niswanger ran a 30.108 on fresh tires, so maybe a sub 30 lap time for Henry. We'll see. But he has caution. It's Eric Kempf. No, it's not. He's on pit road. Who was it?
Michael Barbagelata.
Barbagelata, I believe, was one of about 3 or 4 drivers who was running the strategy of staying out as long as they possibly could. Ross Brockman and Breyer Fritz were also playing that same strategy. And now, got 16 drivers, I think, on the lead lap with the flying of our 4th caution of the day.
That could have been very dangerous to some of the drivers if that would have happened just a little bit earlier. But this one kind of confuzzles me. It looks like the 11 was a little bit loose off the corner. I didn't see any contact between them prior and just met in the middle. Barb did a really good job not driving it back up into the field, but definitely an odd one.
Is that Hunter Brittle that was right behind that, I believe, in the 10? That was close.
obviously, I think that really works out the perfection for someone like Brett Kingcott, where, hey, I think he could realistically dive back on the pit road, take that extra set of tires, and he saved just a little bit longer. I would be kind of impressed.
And misidentification on my part. That wasn't Brittle. That was the guy who's led almost the entirety of this race today. That was Zach Henry, who was behind that spin on the front straightaway and almost got collected as we go on board with him. Nathan Jump was also just behind that, as was Shane Neiswanger.
And just that is a terrifying look to kind of see a car come back up almost into your lane. Whew. But that also kind of works directly in I mean, it's kind of a great thing, it's kind of a terrible thing, because hey, you just pitted, but unfortunately, if you would have been able to stay out and save that few extra laps, you would have been able to kind of pit under caution and take no loss. And I think that's kind of worked out for, ironically, Michael Barbagelata. He went on a 50-lap stint. Even with being in the caution, he is still up here, still keeps his position, and gets to pit.
Frustration, do you think, for Will Barbagelata, because he had a pretty good gap between himself and Zach Henry with that couple of laps fresher, well, not fresher tires, but the couple of laps coming to pit road sooner to get the fresher tires than Zach Henry. Now with this yellow, the 12's on your back bumper once again.
Yeah, it kind of just, it's one of those one step forward and hey, we fell 3 steps back of, you had a really good lead over him. You kind of had the upper hand, and now it's everything that you just kind of rolled the dice for. Well, now we're kind of back on even ground. And he does have about 1 or 2 lap fresher tires than you, and he has not been pushing that hard.
A nearly 50-lap green flag run right there. Crossed us over the threshold of halfway. We'll be going back green with less than 70 laps to go. I believe that the 71 of Aaron McInerney, he was the first car 1 lap down, or first truck 1 lap down, so he should get the free pass. They'll put 17 trucks on the lead lap. 1 lap down apiece, James Shiflett, Eric Kempf, Jeff Johnson, and Robin Durr. Rod Fastenau is 2 laps down, Jackson Sims is 23 laps down, and Emilio Paredes, he's still being scored in the race, but he was involved in, I believe it was the second caution? Yeah, the second caution of the day. And since then, he's just been sitting on pit road trying to get damage repaired for the last half hour or so. So be unlikely that he'll finish any better than 24th, even if he is able to get back out onto the racetrack.
Getting re-racked, getting ready to do it again.
Our last restart was very interesting. A lot of drivers trying to get everything they can, and I think the same thing's going to be said here, because it's the closest these drivers will be until things end up getting spread out. But I'll tell you who else that caution really helped. Ross Brockman. He's going to be on the outside of row 3 now, after he ended up playing that strategy, staying out the longest of anybody, was the leader when the caution came out. We'll see what he can do with it. As Barbagelata, what a jump there. Controlled truck and completely caught Zach Henry flat-footed. Henry trying to make up that ground to turn 1.
Honestly, if I was kind of William Barbagelata, I would want to try to get Shane Neiswanger just a little bit of whiff of air all the way to the bottom, but right now it looks like it's the Henry and Barbagelata show.
Henry showing the nose there, gonna get chopped going into 3, as we were almost 3 wide down the back straightaway for around the 5th position. Ross Brockman, Hunter Brittle, Matt Dewar, they're mixing it up in the latter half of this top 5.
And Neiswanger, he's just kind of watching this. I think he may be kind of in the best situation here, because maybe he's not as fast, but seeing these top 2 guys run each other hard, that would work in his favor. Trying to both of them just use all their stuff up, run each other down, and hey, he's still got fresh tires.
Oh, we might be looking for 3 wide there. Now back to double. It was Austin Moore. I don't know if he got help or got loose through 1 and 2. Ashton Lawson dove low on the back straightaway, and then Elliot Henderson said, I can go lower. That could have been really bad into 3, but cooler heads prevailed.
And that's the thing where, I don't know if that really was, hey, someone got loose. I think that was, hey, you're not going to pass me down here. It's either me or the grass.
Ashton Lawson going to get around Austin Moore. Now he goes to work on Hunter Brittle. That is for 5th. Henderson also working hard on the bottom. He just got a spot from Ross Brockman. Now he looks for 6th on Austin Moore.
And still the battle up front wages. Zach Henry still trying to get Barbagiola's
Oh!
bumper.
Jared
Car on the
Darling.
wall.
Darling got loose off of 4, got a tap from behind by, I believe it was Michael Sensi. Second time, near disaster for the Ford truck off of turn 4, but he hangs onto it. We stay green.
It's still a battle there, almost with Henderson. Looks like battle's now behind him. Nathan Jump kind of sends it on that bottom.
Hunter Brittle is on the top side, and he is going backwards. More jump. Now Brockman going to bypass him. Michael Sensi next on the list. Brittle was up in 5th place, and just like that, he's about to make an exit out of the top 10.
Now I'm looking here still with this battle between Barbagiolata and Zach Henry. Looks like Henry's kind of a little bit more taking his turns a lot more smoothly, but Barb seems to be kind of diamonding the track a little bit harder.
Remember, aside from maybe having to deal with lap traffic, this is the first time today that Zach Henry is having to deal with dirty air. He's been able to have his own pace out in clean air the entirety
almost
of this
3
race.
wide in turn 1. I'm so sorry, but Elliot Henderson almost sent it 3.
Stacked up for 4th place. Ooh, little contact there, little bump. Henderson to Ashton Lawson. Lawson all over the back bumper.
Henry sends it on the bottom. And it looks like Zach Henry's going to get it here out of 4, almost.
Ooh, little loose there. Couldn't quite get the power down. Could Zach Henry? Let's see if Barbagiolata can pin him down going into 1. Not allow him to be able to come up off the bottom. Ooh, he slips up a tad, does the 12. This is a great side-by-side for the race lead. 2 non-playoff drivers, neither one wanting to give an inch, wanting the first checkered flag of the playoffs here in Season 7.
And the best thing you can do is really pin him down all the way down to that yellow. Force him to get loose, force him to kind of lift off, give you the space, but I think now is the perfect time where you're going to have to cross him over and try to shoot low.
Interesting thought here as well. We went back green with about 70-ish laps to go. Ross Brockman, when the caution came out, he was on his 50th lap of the stint. Don't know exactly how far he could go, but I would assume he couldn't go another 20 laps. There's still another trip to pit road for these guys, I think, before all is said and done. So great battling up here at the front, but now, with that potential pit stop coming up, did Will Barbagiolata show his playbook too early to Zach Henry of coming to pit road a few laps sooner than the 12 truck did? Does Henry adjust his strategy here if the final pit stop is under green flag conditions?
I'm a little bit more worried about how Barbagiolata was kind of running there. I'd be worried that Barb kind of burnt off his tires a little bit, trying to keep Henry behind him. So I'd be kind of looking at that gap here in the next few laps, seeing if it still stays that much or if it grows to more than a second.
Interesting, when we went green and even about 20, 25 laps in, we had, 7 drivers, 8 drivers of our playoff contenders up inside of the top 12. Now we've got some drivers that have run into some issues. We've already documented about Jackson Sims and the 23 of Owens, but now Jared Darling has fallen back to 15th. Austin Moore has fallen back outside the top 10 in the 12th position.
And Ashton's thinking about it. He's looking at that outside of Niswonger. Looks like he's going to send it. Really, Ashton's got nothing to lose here, so I can understand him trying to push the issue here and kind of make Shane realize that, hey, look, you've got more to lose here in this situation. I'm willing to run you hard.
Ashton Lawson trying that outside line, and this side-by-side is bringing Elliot Henderson into the conversation. 3-man fight for the 3rd spot, and if they keep double wide, you've got showed the nose 3, might be trying to fake out Niswonger, give him to overdrive turn 3 there, but now look, Matt Dewar, Nathan Jump, Ross Brockman, Michael Sensi, you've got about 7 drivers, throw a blanket over them up here for 3rd place.
And I've been looking at that 37 and that 24. They have been magnets. They have not been able to get away from each other. Every time I look back at them, they've either bouncing into each other or hitting each other.
Now remember, this battle up here between the 49, the 24, the 37, and the 2. This is not for the victory, obviously. It's for 3rd place, but it also is for who's going to accumulate the most points here, the most playoff points, heading into Talladega next week. These spots may not seem like much, but every point matters
look at
when
Elliot.
it comes down to the
Elliot's gonna send it.
accumulation of most points in 7 races.
And he hits him.
Contact! It's in a nice Wonger. Matt Dure's going to go around as well. Caution.
I can't say I didn't see that coming, and knowing Elliot's background, I could definitely anticipate that dive. I think that may have been a little bit too early for it, though.
Too soon? Yeah, maybe. Matt Dewar pays the price for that one. He was kind of the innocent bystander looking on at the three-wide battle ahead.
It wouldn't have
Little
been
damage
that
there on the
bad.
back end and looks like on the right rear.
I think the thing that frustrates me the most is not that the move was made, but it was the fact of he made the move late, but he made it so late where he couldn't get the car wound up enough and ended up sliding up the track straight into him.
Right in the middle of 4 playoff contenders is where the 5th caution of the day takes place. We'll go back here and take a look at it into turn 1. Like Ashton Lawson might have come down into Matt Dewar, and that's how the 2 spun around. But here it is. You talk about that late jump to the inside. They've already crossed the start-finish line. Then he makes the move down to the bottom. 49 goes to defend.
It's just the fact of
Contact made.
you can't shove it in there 5-10 miles an hour faster and expect it to stick. And when the guy in front of you has been sending it in slower and still been washing up the track, I mean, I understand the desperation, but I don't see the need to tear up a truck that early in the race where we still have a good 50 laps left and probably a good pit run.
There's always been an ongoing debate between drivers of when is the gentlemanly time to be able to show that nose down to the inside. And in the case there for Elliott Henderson, was it made too late? Was it made at just the right time? I mean, you could argue this back and forth all day long. The end result is, though, Matt Dewar is going to be the one that's going to be the most frustrated because he had absolutely nothing to do with that, and he's the one that loses all of the positions.
And definitely, I'm going to tell you, the drivers at 49 is definitely not going to be that happy. Notice that Ashton may have given a few bumps to the 37 as they were leaving pit road, but the big thing is, I mean, you got to live with these consequences. I mean, you make these decisions, they're remembered. And hey, there's a lot of races coming up where that could be paid back, but there's also a lot of races coming up where you can be hurt a lot worse.
That's interesting you bring that up too, because we've already driven home how this is not your typical playoff system. This is not a win you're in. There's no rounds. It's just all about the consistency for 7 races. If you go back and consider a round-based playoffs, okay, you win a race, you're locked into the next round. Let's say that scenario there was for a race win. People are going to be frustrated. They might try and get some payback on you in the next couple of races. Well, you're already locked into the next round. It's okay. Now, as you mentioned, in the fact that there's basically 7 races and we crown a champion, that move could come back to bite him. Drivers could pick opportune times here in the next 6 weeks to be able to make sure the 37 is not at the top of the point standings by the time we get to the finale at Atlanta.
And realistically, I'm sure Elliott had his reasons of doing that move right then and there. And not all the blame is put on him. I mean, obviously Shane could have went a little bit higher up the track, or Shane could have, maybe went down to defend, or hey, backed off a little bit earlier. But the point still stands of these are decisions that other people remember, and that hey, the quote note meme, your decisions, your actions have consequences.
We'll see if maybe we'll see something of it in this race, maybe next week. Well, I don't know if you can necessarily get payback on somebody at Talladega other than working with them or sticking them in the sucker hole. But
I'll
we
put
got
him in the catch fence.
we got some tracks coming up here though. We got North Wilkesboro is gonna be coming up in about 4 weeks, so
that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be really fun.
That's gonna be interesting. Of course, North Wilkesboro hosting the NASCAR Cup Series All-Star race this year, so put that here right in the middle of the playoffs for these Great Lake Truck Series drivers as getting ready for the restart. Closing in on 50 laps to go, Zach Henry and Will Barbagelata. Feel like we've been saying those names a lot on the front row today, because we have. Zach Henry gets us back underway here at Milwaukee. And look at that, Barbagelata going to throw the quick block to the bottom, make sure that he has the shorter way around the racetrack, and he'll stack them up, Lawson and Henderson for 3rd place.
And I'm just looking here. Henry's trying to drive away. Now, I don't think Henry has anything to worry about fuel. So, really, this is going to be a straight-up match between Henry and Barbagelata, who can, A, save tires the best, and B, who can keep up that general momentum. But I'm seeing the Hornet's Nest back there at 24, at 37, at 49.
You can see that left side damage on the driver's side door of Shane Neiswanger's 49.
Oh!
Yikes!
You could tell that the moment I saw the 37 cut in front of Nicewalker, he
The
thought
thought
about
was
it there.
there. The thought was definitely there.
He thought about it.
Got a big picture race, though, here with the playoffs. Got to make sure that, yeah, you want that driver to maybe lose spots, but at the same time, you don't want to lose spots yourself. So cooler heads may be prevailing, at least for the time being there for Shane Nicewonger's. Ashton Lawson now. He is the highest running of the playoff drivers. It's been Nicewonger really all day. Oh, close there. Close bumpers between the 37 and the 49 again. I
You
feel
sure
like we
it's
have
cooler
to...
heads?
I don't know. I think we got to keep our camera on this for a couple more laps. See if maybe the distance opens up or not.
But I do have to
Again,
say,
deep send in for Nicewonger.
we have a new fastest lap of the race. Has to be Zach Henry of a 29.0 or 9:01. Finally broke into sub 29s or sub 30s.
Yeah, he and Will Barbagelata, that is, are the only two that have broken into the 29s. 9:01, as you mentioned, for Henry. 9:05 for Will.
And just looking at those top two, they are still trying to track each other down. And I think that Barb knows that he needs to try and get in front of Henry, see if he can at least stifle the momentum a little bit.
Got some great battles going on right now.
Oh, Elliott got loose.
Ooh, man, Nicewonger going to show the nose here. Going into one. This is for fourth. Also got a good battle for 10th between Matt Durr and Michael Sensi. Matt trying to make his way back up towards the front. Remember, he was 6th when he got spun around, and Nicewonger slides across the nose of Henderson. Don't know if we should stay with this or not. I feel like Nicewonger was the one that being behind was where the situation might have been. With him getting around the 37, I think, at least for the time being, we might be okay to drop back.
Well, let me ask you this. If you're Elliott, do you try it again?
I mean,
I don't know if I'm going to get the...
Later on in the race, like with less than 10 to go, absolutely. I think
mean,
doesn't matter if you're Henderson or anybody else in the field. You got the opportunity, you got to go for it. But
I barely got the space
right
of 50 left. I don't know if I'm going to get the space of 10.
Matt Durr, as I mentioned, he got around Michael Sensi up to 10th. Now trying to reel in Brent Kincott. At least if you're the 2, you're trying to maybe get back up to where you were, at least 6th position. He was having such a good run, such a consistent run here today, and caught up in that last incident. You see the battle scars there, a little bit of damage on the right rear and the back bumper of the Xbox machine, the Chevy Silverado.
And I'm just looking. Barb is he is a looming threat in the back of Zach Henry's mirror. And you got to look at this. I mean, Henry is just trying to, you got to conserve tires here a little bit. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to play mind games with the guy behind you. Get him to burn off his stuff a little bit. Trying to figure out how he's going to get around you. Let him overrun his stuff. Let him burn it up. So hopefully when it's really go time, you have more of it he does.
Zach Henry out of 25-11 Racing. Trying to hold off SB2 Racing's William Barbagelata. Barbagelata, 2 victories this season. Those victories coming at Chicagoland Street Course, and then the regular season finale last week at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Zach Henry has only made 4 starts this season. He's still looking for his first checkered flag of season 7.
And it really looks like the top 3, looks like Lawson's really been running some good laps. Almost, it's kind of deceiving. It looks like he's catching up to the top 2, but I think really the back 4 are kind of just falling away from him.
Yeah, last time by, Zach Henry, all these lap times in the 30-second bracket. Henry ran a 4.54. Barbagelata a little bit slower at a 5.46, but second fastest lap was Ashton Lawson at a 4.91. So,
and you got to remember, even though the banner's not on the car, Ashton's still in the playoff, or sorry, in the chase. So
correct.
This is a great day for him.
Trying to see if he can reel in the top 2. He was even putting down good lap times back when he was inside the top 10. He fought and clawed his way up inside of the top 5. So may not all be just a Henry versus Barbagelata battle here.
Durr almost set it on Brett. But it just got to load up just in time, not to just door him, but he is trying to get past him, get right back into that top 10 fight.
Great battle here. 3-way battle for the 9th position. Matt Durr in the 2, Brent Kincott in the 1, Michael Sensi looking on there in the 92. Looks like Kincott, the longer way around, going to lose both positions. That would drop him outside of the top 10. Moves Matt Dewar up to the 9th spot. Next driver he'll try and catch up to would be Hunter Brittle, but there's about 2.5 tenths of a second between himself and 8th place.
Man, what an eventful day Brett has had. All the way from the front, all the way to the back, all the way to the front again. Been fast, been slow.
A lot of it, though, has just been his own strategy. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't.
And hey, that's great. I mean, really, what makes your postseason? Obviously, missing the playoffs, missing the chase, that's not what you want. That's not your goal when you start out a season. But what kind of makes, hey, let's say a really close points battle that you just didn't make the cut, what makes it all better is, hey, you can now experiment for the next, 7 weeks. You can go experiment. You can go try things maybe that you weren't going to try before because, strategy held you, or you were worried about points and everything. You can go out, just lose. Figure out what works, figure out what doesn't, take it to next season.
One thing that we should mention here for those that are looking at the ticker, you may notice that the 23 of Spencer Owens, playoff driver, is on the lead lap. He did not get the lucky dogs. As a matter of fact, under that last caution period, 23 of Owens and the 82 of Jeff Johnson, they took the wave around. So they're about 15 lap older tires right now, hoping a caution comes out so that way they can remain on the lead lap.
Yeah, Jeff's coming down now, so it looks like he was out of fuel, or at least maybe just didn't feel comfortable with the car enough to learn it any longer. But that brings up some big question marks for Spencer Owens, how much fuel he has in the car, because realistically, these cars can, I think, go about for a 50, 60 lap run on a fuel or a full tank. He's about 32 on his stint right now. Granted, we've had some caution laps, but I don't think he can make it to the end of the race, so he's hoping for another caution.
Needs a caution sooner rather than later. And to your point there with that fuel number, that would say that Zach Henry, Will Barbagelata, Ashton Lawson, all these drivers, they can make it the rest of the way. Less than 40 to go, and they're not even 20 laps into this run since they were last on pit road. So now it's basically a case of you got what you got, or you're racing to the next restart.
Obviously, if a caution comes out, I'm diving out. I'm taking tires.
Absolutely.
I saw how fast those things were. Like, okay, I wasn't that sold on them to begin with, but now, hey, new tires sound great. Let's do it. Although, you got to think, how would those left side tires feel? I mean, we always talk about the right side tires here. We never talk about the left sides. Maybe a 2-tire call could be coming into play. It's gonna make the car turn. It's gonna turn really well. It may turn too well.
Ross Brockman, we saw that pit strategy stayed out during the round of green flag pit stops as the leader. Caution came out. He was able to gain a ton of track position, and he's been able to maintain it. He's now going to lose a spot to Hunter Brittle, but he's been up inside of the top 10, ranging between 6th to 8th place. Nice job there for the 52. Another non-playoff driver that's shown up here in the opener of the playoffs. And how about Nathan Jump there as well in the 83? Remember we saw him on a skid? He was having trouble holding the bottom there in the midway portion of the race, fell outside of the top 10. Now he's back up here in 6th place. Nice rebound. And
he's definitely someone you could tell has gotten a lot more comfortable with his car. Didn't look that comfortable to begin with. Looks like he was sending it a little bit too hard, locking up the tires. And now he really looks a lot more settled. He looks like a lot smoother. Even with a little bit of damage on the right front, it looks good.
The one thing I gotta ask you as I'm looking at these drivers that we've already talked about, they're not going to be leaving Milwaukee here today with the performance they were looking for, specifically talking about the playoff contenders. Jackson Sims, obviously, with the early issues. The jury's out on Spencer Owens, whether he's going to have to pit before this is all said and done. Next week's Talladega. We know that Talladega, by some accounts, is a crapshoot. A lot of times it can tend to kind of cater to the underdog, to the Cinderella story. If you're a driver that's leaving here today, not with the run you were looking for, not accumulating the playoff points you were looking for, how encouraged are you knowing that the next two races are tracks like Talladega and Homestead Miami? Talladega, where maybe it's the right place, right time scenario, and Homestead, which is a 1.5 mile racetrack. It's the kind of configuration that just about every driver is familiar with, comfortable with, and maybe more of a place where you're able to control your own destiny.
I'm a little bit more in that mindset of you can't make it all up in 1 week. You can't have 3 bad weeks and have 1 good week and expect good things to happen. That just doesn't happen. You need to kind of set yourself up for success. Hey, maybe Milwaukee's not going your way. That sucks. Let's focus on going ahead. Talladega, we know Talladega is dangerous. We know how it's going to play out. So instead of trying to be Superman at Talladega, instead of trying to make something happen or force something, or maybe something's not going to work, let's try to get the best possible run that we can. Let's protect our stuff. So when we get the Homestead, when we get to one of those tracks, you can really breathe easy and say, okay, well, I still got a good task in front of me. I still have a huge challenge, but I don't have to, make up for 2 races where I've wrecked out, or 2 races that things didn't go my way. And man, I really need Homestead to go my way to make this work.
We've talked about North Wilkesboro. That's going to be on June 13th. Got another mile and a half after that at Kansas. Michigan, I mean, oh, hang on. We'll get to that in a minute. Hunter Brittle just hit pit road.
Same with Niswanger.
That was a great battle that was going on between Brittle and Nathan Jump for what was then the 6th position, but
I mean,
I thought these guys could make it.
I don't think it's a part of they can make it. I'm looking at the lap times. Look at what Zach Henry and William Barbagelato are running. They're running 31.3s, 31.3s, kind of 31.4s-ish. But you know how fast we were running on those brand new tires. We were running almost in the high 29s. You would be gaining about a second or so a lap. I mean, it's not impossible to say, because as they keep running, the tires will continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse. This is a risky move, but I could see this playing out.
Ashton Lawson, Nathan Jump just hit pit road. We talked about Niswanger and Brittle on pit lane. Matt Durkheim down that same lap with them, so that's 3 playoff contenders there, and then add a 4th with Ashton Lawson. We'll see if anybody else makes the dive onto pit lane here. Nathan Jump, Ashton Lawson. That's a little bit of rubbing off of pit road.
He was not willing to give up that space, and I don't blame him.
Yikes. And that was right beside Zach Henry and Barbagelato. Will Barbagelato, they were entering into turn 1 with that side-by-side off the access road.
I mean, you got to think of what Nathan Jump thinks here. I mean, he is trying to get the best positions possible, and you got to think, hey, I'd rather pass the guy on pit road. Almost lost it, Ashton Lawson did.
Here come the top 2. Henry and Barbagelato nose to tail down pit lane.
Hey, you know what'd be crazy?
Michael were in the previous lap.
I'd take 2.
Let's see. Let's stay on the leaders here. Let's see what they do here. Is it 4 fresh Goodyears, or do you go maybe with just the right sides? Up on the right side there.
I'd go 2.
Jacking down and away. Let's see. Nope,
no.
Left sides as well. Interesting.
I'd say, I don't know. I'd shake it up. I'd try 2, and maybe if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But obviously, right now, I can easily say Barb is not passing Zach on track, so you got to try something different in pit lane. Nathan Jump goes around. Caution's out.
Look out, Hunter Brittle, as Jump sideways in the middle of 1 and 2. Gets the thing refired. Caution flies, and now...
Well, that puts a lot more in.
Yeah.
See, I was telling you 2 tires was a good idea.
Now, should mention that all the drivers that we just saw on pit lane, I believe, yes, they all stayed on the lead lap. Nobody went a lap down. So nobody's going to have to rely on the lucky dog as far as the drivers that pit and would have to start the tail end of the field. I believe Aaron McInern's going to get the lucky dog for the 2nd time today, but let's see what happened here.
That's definitely an odd one. I think that Intimidator button may have been pressed.
Is this a rollover from what happened off of pit road?
Well, not exactly. I mean, if you look at it here, it goes down into turn 1, and I think he just had that Intimidator button pressed, and it just sent him on around.
Wow, yeah, that thing was sideways, wasn't it?
Did a good job keeping it off the wall. Didn't get hit by anyone. Obviously, tires are a little bit shot, but good news is caution's out. So I'd put some 4 new fresh ones on. That'd give it enough to go.
Ross Brockman, I was going to be very curious to see if we had stayed green to the end, if he might have played the strategy of maybe trying to run it to the finish.
I think gone. I think was it Hunter?
They would have reeled him in.
Well, I think was it Ross would have had something there. He probably would have reeled him in. But the thing is, with you racing that hard, and let's say Ross was taking it a little bit easy, maybe the tires would have evened out by that point, or Ross could have been a rolling roadblock at that point and just tried to hold them all off. I mean, it's better than working on the same strategy. That's the reason. I think if you really want to try and beat the 12, you have to do something different than him. You have to try something different, because Barber Gelada has tried again and again to try and outdrive Zach Henry, and he just hasn't been able to do it.
All right, so we've seen some really crazy restarts here tonight, but none of them have been within 25 laps to go. The aggressive level is certainly going to ramp up here, but look at our top three. Zach Henry, Will Barber-Gelada, and Ross Brockman, all non-playoff drivers. At this point in time, push may come to shove.
I'd say I like Ross's position here, but I don't know if he can capitalize on it. Because he really has not been in this position all day. He has not had the chance to restart up front, hasn't had the chance to even see the leader during the restarts. And really, you've got some of these scariest people in the business behind you. You've got Austin Moore, Ashton Lawson, Shane Neiswanger. I mean, those guys are scary good on restarts. I'd say it's definitely a trial by fire situation here.
Austin Moore qualified 5th, dropped back at one point outside of the top 10, worked his way back up into the second half of the top 10, and he, like Ross Brockman, was still out there on the racetrack at the moment of caution. Was able to come down pit road, will restart in 4th. First time, I believe, today that he is the highest of the playoff contenders.
I don't know about you, but I don't think we're done with cautions yet.
I don't think so either. I don't think so. 6th caution of the day, though.
Well, I'll say for Milwaukee, that's good.
Yes.
I'll take 6 for Milwaukee.
Maybe because it's a playoff race, we haven't seen as many cautions. Drivers a little bit more give and take, realizing what's on the line. If we'd been here during a regular season race, think maybe we might have seen some more yellows.
I don't think so. They've been really clean this season. I know they're trying to clean it up more, but really the stakes are ramping up. Oh, it looks like Henry waited on that restart, stacked up the entire inside line. Brockman tried to anticipate it.
He caught Brockman flat-footed, and that stacked up everybody on that inside line. Barber-Gelada swings around the top for 2nd. Now it's going to be Austin Moore and Ross Brockman for 3rd place. I'll tell you who was the biggest loser on that exchange. That was the 10 of Hunter Brittle.
Oh, and Brittle almost loses it back there. It is a hornet's nest back there.
Side by side for 3rd, side by side for 7th. Side by side for 9th, stack them up several rows here inside of the top 10. As Brockman going to send it on the bottom here against Moore. Here comes Neiswanger. He might throw a spinner. Barber-Gelada in the 22.
Oh, there's more spinners.
7th caution of the day. This one in the center of 1 and 2.
I don't know about that one. That's
James Shiflett had gotten the lucky dog under the most recent caution. Robin Durr, 2 laps down, should get the lucky dog this time. And a former lucky dog winner, Michael Barber-Gelada, brings out the 7th caution of the day. Let's take a look at this one. This was, I think, somewhere in the vicinity of 6th.
So this one looks a little bit weird to me. So looking from that angle, it really looks like the 22 was kind of cutting down, and I don't blame him. He kind of got shoved out of his corner. He's a little bit unsettled, trying to keep it all together. But if you look at it from almost really a front end camera angle, it really looks weird.
Looking at that from camera shot there, the 37 definitely showed the nose. He was to the inside. What I'm seeing, it looks like the 22 starts migrating down through the center of the corner. You can't do it that late.
And see, it's almost like Elliott's car just wiggles.
Yeah, a little bit. Kind of a little push-up there, right? Yeah.
And I don't blame Elliott. I mean, he was all the way down in that yellow rumble strip.
Could that have been a byproduct of gap whack, though? That sudden little jump to the right, maybe?
I think it would have been. It could have also been that, hey, Elliott's tires were on that rumble strip, and it just lost traction. And these trucks, I mean, they like the best traction possible, so I'm not too surprised by that.
Take another angle at it here, going down to turn 1. That 21 looked like it was loose going into the corner, too. Almost like he had to counter steer the front end. It was wanting to head up towards the outside wall, so I don't think either one, the 22 or the 37, had a handle on those trucks the best there.
I mean, Elliott was
going into the first corner.
Pinball on that restart. I mean, he kind of had the full effect of Ross missing that restart, and he kind of got off to a really bad foot. Had to fight his way back into the top 10, and I'd say definitely an uphill battle.
Well, tough break there in the late going for the number 22, the Verner's Ginger Ale Zero Sugar Toyota. Got me in the mood for some Verner's now, to be honest. That's good stuff.
Give me some squeak.
I'm not sure what that is.
Nesquik. You haven't heard of
Oh,
squeak?
Nesquik. Oh, some Squick. I've never heard it called that before.
Really? You haven't?
I am a millennial, so we don't know those things.
I'm a hick.
I'm a hick. Well, yet another restart here, and we've seen that Will Barbagelata, he's got a very good truck on the short run. I think the big problem for him is Zach Henry being the leader, he's always the control car. So it's always a matter of trying to match the restarts if you're the 27. If he can nail a restart here, I think he's got something for Zach Henry.
I think really to kind of put it bluntly is that you're going to have to either get the jump on Zach Henry. You're going to have to kind of anticipate his restart, which, he realizes that Barb has been trying to anticipate his restarts, and that's what threw Ross Brockman off so much last time, because he was trying to time the restart. Zach changed his timing, threw everyone behind him off, didn't throw Barb completely off, but definitely gave him a little bit of gap. But I think really if Barb wants to get to him, he's going to have to put the bumper to him.
Well, want to remind everybody, next week, next Tuesday night, we're at the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway in Talladega, Alabama. 75 laps of racing for the second playoff race here for the Great Lake Truck Series, presented by Patti Engineering. You're not going to want to miss it. That green flag's going to fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be there. Hope you will be too. We still got a race to finish up here at the Milwaukee Mile. See who gets the first checkered flag of the playoffs here in Season 7. It has been Zach Henry and Will Barbagelata all night long, but now you got Austin Moore in third, Ross Brockman in fourth, green
Barb
flag out, 16 to go.
Barb got it. I noticed he's really arcing up in that first corner to try and get a better entry, but I don't know if it's helping as much as he can, but he's digging.
And he's got a rear decklet full of Austin Moore all of a sudden in that 91. Now again, no win-you're-in scenario for any of the playoff drivers, but Austin Moore trying to put a little bit of a gap between himself and his playoff competition heading into Dega next week.
I mean, you got to think of Austin Moore early in the race. I mean, he was struggling, so being P3 right outside of the two dominant cars of the race, I mean, that is an achievement in itself.
Jane Nicewanger, fourth place. Ashton Lawson trying to move to fifth as Brockman is caught in no man's land on that outside line. Hunter Brittle tried to take advantage, but he had to check up. Now here comes Elliott Henderson for seventh place.
And like I said, it's a hornet's nest back there. Everyone's just trying to fight for their own position. I think Elliott can really get up inside that top five before the end of the race. Hunter is really struggling here.
He almost got the wall that time off of four. Brent Kincott now to his inside for the eighth position. Ooh, pushed up a little there through the center. We got a spinner in the back, sideways at least. I think he saved it. Don't know who it was. It might have been Aaron McInerney.
Oh,
no,
and Jared.
It was Darling.
Darling's got a blown engine.
I think it was McInerney that was spinning, but it is Darling who's got the big damage from it.
You know, actually, Darling didn't hit him. It just blew up in two.
Could he have money shifted, trying to slow down?
I mean, he's banged around that car pretty bad. It wouldn't be out of the question that it just blew up, but
Wow.
that's unfortunate luck, especially for someone, like I said, Darling had such high hopes going into this race and such good outlook going into this race. Finish less than almost P20th. I don't think he'll get passed by Sims, but
Up and down day there for Jared Darling. He had the speed here today. There's no doubt about that. Fought his way up into the top 10. So
out.
Caution. Breyer Fritz on the front straightaway. Can you say restart with less than 10 to go?
Huh. Well, that was I'm looking back at this, just a few early looks of that incident. What in the world is going on there?
We're going to take and see if we can get a couple of replays here under this caution period. We're going to first go back and document what happened to Jared Darling.
Yeah, it's really weird. He just goes in the one, drives it normally, maybe sees a little bit of wreck in front of him, and then out of two, it just loses it. You see the engine just blow up.
Wow.
Tough luck, but I don't know if he, or maybe, like you said, maybe he money shifted it, or if that engine just had enough.
He's got damage you could see there, especially on the left front. I
It's
don't
not
think it
out of
would
the
necessarily
question,
cause overheating or something.
sometimes these engines can just give up randomly if they take enough damage. And looking here in this corner, it's going to be it looks like this incident may start a little bit further than this.
Well, this did not bring out the caution. Here's what I was mentioning about the truck sideways. Before Darling had his issue, Jeff Johnson taking it to the inside of Aaron McInerney. Nice save there by the 71. And there you see the 4 of Darling after the engine problem. But that didn't bring out the yellow. Let's go and see what happened to Briar Fritz on the front stretch.
Man, Jeff's been having a rough race. Jeff's been having a really rough race.
You saying maybe 2 for 2 here on this run? Oh, yep.
Yeah, that one looks a little bit weirder to me. So he gets out of the corner here and just almost like they meet in the middle. I don't know if maybe Briar Fritz thought he was going to give him a little bit more room, or he was trying to pinch him down, and Jeff just didn't realize and came up into him. I'm not really sure of the cause there, but it was hard racing.
And that's hard hit too. Take a look at this again. Watch that 82.
He gave him a good headache.
Boy, he was already airborne with the right front before even getting down to the inside wall, and then hard shot driver's side into the pit wall there.
My goodness.
Oof. Caution out. 8th time today. Green flag's gonna fly with less than 10 to go. We're yet waiting on the iRacing pace car to give us the 1 to green signal. We're at 8 to go right now. It'll be 7 to go next time by.
If you want an interesting proposition, Austin Moore just pitted. He got new tires. Do you think new tires really gonna matter that much in the last 10 laps?
I don't think so. I don't see how. Because, yeah, you've got faster car and faster speed with the tires, but you're back in traffic. I mean, unless you're planning on using a third lane up against the outside wall to pass people, there's nowhere to go.
I mean, it's possible. I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't like my odds up there.
I'm skeptical. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I just don't see it.
I'm not totally sold on it just yet, but maybe, like I said, they've been racing these cars. Maybe we know something. I think it's going to be a hard pass on this track. I don't think it's going to work out the way it will, but look who's on that high line. Because I noticed Barber-Gelada also pit.
Oh, yes, he did. Will Barber-Gelada came to pit lane. Okay, so hold on. Here's a thought, okay? Are they maybe thinking that we're not going just 150 laps? Are they maybe planning that we could be having more cautions here and go into some overtime?
I don't know. I still think even if we go overtime, I'm not pitting. But I'm looking at Ashton Lawson on that bottom line, and I think he's hungry. I saw him, and he was one driver who was continuously having those great short run pace, And I wouldn't count out Niswonger here. He's been pretty good on these restarts, but look at that green car back there in 5th. I wouldn't be surprised if I see some shenanigans here.
Well, we got 20 trucks on the lead lap. Robin Durr getting the free pass back on the lead lap after being -2. Pace car onto pit road, maybe for the final time. 7 to go here at the Milwaukee Mile.
And an uneventful
almost.
They almost got door to door. They almost get door to door again. That's what Henry wants to see. He's going to keep trying to drive away. But right now it's between Lawson and Niswonger.
Look at them sporting some left side damage with Brockman on that top side. He's got a clean truck. And Henderson on the inside line there in 5th, looking for 4th. Man, Brockman had his hands full off of turn 4. Really loose off the final corner. Here comes Henderson. Gonna drive it deep to the bottom. And Hunter Brittle getting a little bit more confident now. Battling for 6th with Brent Kincott.
I think this really worked out for Brittle because look at Ross is in the wall.
Oh, we got a block on the back there. Will Barbagelata got blocked down to the inside grass by Matt Durr. Now he jumps up to the high side in those fresh tires.
I mean, I don't blame Durr because realistically, that's a spot to him, and that's a playoff driver.
27 into the wall there off of turn 4. Austin Moore right there as well in the 91. That's 8 fresh Goodyear tires around the 2 right now.
And you got to think, I mean, it's going to get dicey because a lot of those drivers back to pack, they're trying to make up all the time. Look at Barbagelata. He's going to push a 3.
He looks to push it 3, not able to get to the inside of Sensi, but he will get alongside of Ross Brockman. That's for 8th position. 4 to go this time by. Does Barbagelata have enough time to get up to the 12?
No way. I don't think he has enough time to get up to the 12, but at least I can think he can claw his way back to a good top 3 if he can kind of take advantage of some of the lines that are being given, but obviously no give is going to be kind of handed out here.
And now Austin Moore on equal footing with Will Barbagelata alongside of him. That's the battle for the 8th position, so that completely takes away their advantage. As back up at the front, Zach Henry is gone. The battle is between a couple of playoff contenders for 2nd place. Niswanger trying to close in on Ashton Lawson.
Man, I look at Michael Sensi right now, and he is in the worst possible position. He's got 2 guys who really are fast in their own right, and they're on new tires, and he's just trying to hang on.
He might get the Matt Durr treatment here in just a few moments. Zach Henry trying to tick away these laps as quickly as he can. He just wants to get to that white flag.
Barbagelata, he ended up getting a little bit of contact, falls back. Looks like he's falling even farther back.
3 wide there. That's Nathan Jump on the bottom, Brockman on the outside. Here goes McInerney on the bottom. Contact between himself and the 27 sends Barbagelata way up the track. He's going to lose even more positions.
Sends him packing.
Yes, indeed. That takes Will Barbagelata, who's been 2nd place most of this race, was out in front for a time, completely out of the conversation for his 3rd win of the year, and the white flag is in the air for the Undercurrents Toyota Tundra, the dominant truck of the day. Zach Henry, less than a mile away from the checkers.
Ooh, and Austin Moore is getting run all the way down to the apron by what it looks like Hunter Brittle, and Brittle's fighting for his life. He's going to block him all the way down there.
Take a look at your top 6. 5 drivers highlighted in blue. Going to have some good points in the playoffs heading to Talladega.
Oh!
But it's
Brockman
non-playoff
gets saved,
driver
wrecking 4.
Zach Henry picking up the victory here at Milwaukee. Brockman and Matt Durr getting together there in 3 and 4, it looked like.
He got a little bit of help. He got turned.
Matt Durr going to drive on by the 52. He'll finish 18th. Brockman's going to finish in 19th. Might be some hurt feelings leaving Milwaukee here today, but it is all Zach Henry. Top of the board in practice, top of the board in qualifying, and when the dust settles, top of the board here in Wisconsin. And he, for the first time in Season 7, will get to do some burnouts and take a trip to victory lane.
And I can't say he didn't deserve it. He dominated this race. I think really the only time his lead was really in threat was during those pit stops originally when he was not on that same schedule.
Ryan Newman looking throwback for the number 12 of Zach Henry. Going to be heading to victory lane. And let's take a look at the finishing results from today's first playoff race. And look at the playoff drivers there. 2nd through 6th. Lawson, Shane Niswanger, Elliott Henderson, Austin Moore, and Hunter Brittle. It's going to be really close up there at the top of that leaderboard in the point standings heading to Dega next week. A track where positions can be gained and lost in just a matter of a corner.
I'll give a shout out to Brett Kingcott. I mean, he ended up really taking advantage of not being in the playoffs today. I mean, he really threw caution to the wind, tried some off-the-wall stuff. Same thing for Austin Moore, kind of battled back. I mean, I wrote him off early in the race, didn't think he'd be able to come on back. He ended up rallying back to a 5th place finish. Granted, he was 3rd, to my knowledge, before he ended up pitting, but realistically, if a charging Shane Niswanger, Elliott Henderson, I don't know if you could have been able to hold that position without those tires.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And yeah, a loss of 2 positions, but at the same time, at least it wasn't kind of the same kind of thing that happened to Will Barbagelata, where you get all used up, get blocked while trying to make your way up to the front. You at least net a top 5. And I said it was actually a second through 6, actually second through 7th. Michael Sensi as well. Great run there in the 7th position.
And we
We
barely
look on
talked about him
outside.
today.
Oh, not really. Very quiet, which is not always a bad thing, especially when it comes to short track racing. We go further on down. How about Aaron McInerney? I think he got the lucky dog twice today, and he brings it home in 11th. The tough break has got to be for Will Barbagelata, though. Up inside of the top 3 all day long. Played the same strategy as Austin Moore. Did not pan out for him. He gets 12th. Michael Barbagelata right there with him in 13th. Spencer Owens, he got back on the lead lap, and he was able to finish ahead of a number of drivers that were ahead of him for about half this race. He's going to get 14th. Shiflett, who also ended up getting a free pass late in this race, gets 15th. And then Breyer Fritz, Robin Durr, Matt Durr, Ross Brockman, Jeff Johnson, the last of the drivers there on the lead lap. Matt Durr, another playoff driver that hit some hard luck in the closing stages of this one, obviously, with the wreck between himself and Ross Brockman on the final lap.
Aye.
And then further on down, these drivers, like you said, can't get it all back next week at Talladega, but maybe can get some of it back. Jared Darling, 22nd after the engine expiration off turn 2. And then Jackson Sims, who kind of had to fight and claw all day after being involved in one of the early cautions. Some pretty significant damage. 22 laps down, still running. Finishes in the 23rd position. But the 4 and the 6, a lot of work to do. Not just next week at Talladega, but then in a few weeks' time at Homestead, Miami, and down the remainder of the playoff schedule. But wow, what a race here to open up the playoffs here in the Great Lake Truck Series, and it's time to go down and see if we can get a word with a few of our podium finishers. See if we can dial up our 3rd place finisher here today, the driver of the 49, Shane Neiswanger.
Just man, he is an elusive man.
There we go, we got him.
I moved up a little
Hey
bit.
Shane,
Up.
we got Matt, Rod, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Doing great. We got treated to a heck of a race here today, but man, short track racing, beating and banging. I don't think there was a truck in the field that didn't have some type of battle scars. You bring it home 3rd place here today. Nice way to start off the playoffs.
Yeah, you guys just caught when you pulled me up in here. I was talking with Elliot about our little accident there, but yeah, I thought it was a good race today. There were accidents, but a lot of them were in the back, and for the most part, other than that run-in with Elliot, I was able to keep it fairly clean, and I felt like I got the finish I should have, but it probably should have been Barb in front of me and not Ashton.
So you keep mentioning Elliot. I mean, anything you want to share on that?
I mean, he was kind of upset about he was on fresher tires and he was trying to get around me. And I guess he was a little upset that Ashton was taking too long and I was just kind of on the bad end of that stick.
So how difficult is it coming into the first playoff race as a playoff contender? You know that there's no rounds, there's no winning you're in scenario. It's just accumulating the most points through consistency for 7 races. And you got to do it first off here at the Milwaukee Mile, where it's close quarter racing. The restarts are crazy. I mean, how mentally as a driver do you prepare for something like that?
This season at Dark Horse Motorsports, we've had good luck with that all season. Brittle was the regular season points champion. I was 5th. I should have been a little higher, but I got a 25-point penalty. So we were just going to keep doing the same thing we've been doing all season. My thoughts going into this race was don't have a mistake here and get a nice top 5, maybe a little bit further back. Don't wreck and put yourself in a bad spot because next week we have Talladega and you don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, Talladega definitely unpredictable, so great point situation for you here at Milwaukee. Congratulations on a great run. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
I just want to thank my team this week practicing with me. I made a mistake and we spent 2 hours practicing on the wrong setup, but they told me it was the wrong setup and we got it fixed. So if it wasn't for those guys, we wouldn't be having the season. So thank you to Hunter, Brittle, Matt Durr, Robin Durr, and Lewis Woodall.
That's Shates. Nice Wonger. Second highest finishing playoff driver here today. He'll look to carry this momentum with this top 5 run into Talladega next week. Best of luck with that, and congratulations on a great performance tonight in Milwaukee.
Thanks, guys. Good to have you back.
See if we can dial up second place finisher, Ashton Lawson. There we go. We got him. Ashton, Matt Rod, Seth Cole up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do.
I'll tell you what, we were keeping tabs on that long green flag run there just before we ended up getting that slew of caution flags near the end. Looked like you had one of the best long run trucks. You were starting to reel in the 27 and the 12. Do you think if we had stayed green up until the end, you had anything for them? Or even here on this short run, was there anything you had for this 12 to start off the playoffs with a checkered flag?
I mean, I feel like I was starting to lose grip overall, and I don't think I was going to catch either one of them. And Zach just took off, and there was no catching him. I was just happy to stay in second at the end there.
You know, you say you're happy to stay in second, but you kind of showed flashes of speed all race. I mean, what was kind of holding you back from really competing with those two?
I just wasn't comfortable. I mean, the past 2 times we ran here, I've had pace, but I just haven't been able to get into a groove to hit my marks constantly. I think it's just timing wise and grip and everything wasn't really my style of track.
We were keeping an eye on lap times during the course of this run and observing the fact that there were a few portions of this race where a couple of clouds crept in and kind of bathed the track in shadows. Was there anything in that that either helped the truck in handling wise or maybe hurt the truck handling wise, or did the track conditions not play a factor the entirety of the race?
I mean, I think you could feel it, but I think more than anything, just the lighting change had an effect on people finding marks again for the first couple laps. I think that was the most difficult part or most influencing part of that whole deal.
Well, we know Talladega's looming on the horizon. Really good run for you here tonight. The highest of the playoff contenders. Going to carry some good points into that wild card race next week at Talladega. Congratulations on the runner-up finish here tonight. Said you didn't feel all that comfortable, but you certainly looked fast here this evening at Milwaukee. Before we let you go, floor is yours to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
I just want to thank SB2 and Eric and RJ for kind of felt like not believing me at the start of the year and kind of proving me wrong at this point. So it's good to be back in the victory lane this year.
Ashton Lawson parked that number 24, second place in the finishing results here tonight at the Milwaukee Mile. Once again, congratulations on a great performance and best of luck next week at Talladega.
Thank you.
And let's see if we can go down to victory lane. First time this season that Zach Henry is your winner here in the Great Lake Truck Series presented by Patti Engineering. Zach, it's Matthew Rodriguez, Seth Cole up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yes, sir. How are y'all doing?
Well, I'll tell you what. We looked at this number 12 truck on the speed charts in practice, in qualifying, saw what you were able to do in the early going of this race. It was no secret. This was going to be the truck to beat here today if you were going to get a checkered flag at Milwaukee, and dominant performance kept that thing out in front almost the entirety of the day with the exception of that green flag pit stop. I mean, was it as easy as it looked? Because we know that this type of racetrack, there's a lot of slipping and sliding around.
I don't know that I want to say it was easy or anything. I mean, Barb was really quick, so I had to, at a minimum, try and match his pace, right, to stay out in front of him. And I mean, it was a slick track a little bit on fresh tires. I think maybe the way I was driving it, I didn't abuse the right rear as much as maybe some people did. So I wore fairly tight, but could still kind of slide the right rear if I needed to on the back end of the runs. I don't know. I was just patient, driving through the corners, and I'd look in the mirror and I'd see Barb a few times. I know he had the really good long run pace, and I think he may have been shifting, which is something I wasn't doing. But early on in the runs, I'd see Barb kind of drive into the corners a little bit deeper than I was. So I was kind of backing those up and just letting it roll, and then easing into the throttle to try to save that right rear for the long runs as well.
Well, you say it wasn't easy, but you definitely made it look easy. But what was your reaction when you saw Barb go down pit road? I mean, was it shock? Was it surprise? Was it uh-oh?
He was in second, so I was a little uneasy until I saw a few people stay out. I knew that if I could get at least 4 or 5 people to stay out, there wasn't really enough time for them to run me down. It's not like at that point in the run. I think we only had like maybe 7 or 8 green flag laps on our tires. Our fall off at that time was only like 0.3 of a second. So, um, I mean, if I had 3 or 4 people on the same set of tires as I was, it'd probably take them at least 4 or 5 laps to get around those guys. So I wasn't too worried about it once I saw a couple people stay out.
So we knew that you and the 27 both not competing for the championship, so you guys were focusing on the checkered flag here today. So it was kind of fun to watch the two of you have that kind of mental chess match on the racetrack in terms of strategy. Another area of the race where we saw it take place was during that cycle of green flag pit stops. We saw the 27 dive onto pit lane. You waited a couple laps before you came to pit road. What was the thought process there?
I think that was the first set of green flag stops, if I remember right. And with it being the first green flag stops of the race and how tricky this pit road is to get onto, I was not even going to risk being the first person to pit. And at that point, I didn't realize that you wouldn't lose a lap if you were within a couple seconds of the leader. I didn't realize that you wouldn't lose a lap if you pit. So I decided to stay out those last couple of laps just to see if anybody would hit one of the barrels trying to get onto pit road and bring out a caution. But fortunately, the fall off here really wasn't all that bad for Barb and I. I think we only fell off maybe a second and a half from qualifying pace. So I knew that if I could get a really good entry into pit road and then get off pit road pretty well, he wasn't going to put a ton of time on me anyways. And then I'd have the fresher tires than him.
Well, a tremendous job for you here tonight. Again, it said dominant performance here at Milwaukee. You pick up that checkered flag here to begin off the playoffs for Season 7 of the Great Lake Truck Series. Congratulations. Before we let you get back to your celebrating, though, we're going to hand the microphone over to you and let you do some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
All right. First, I want to shout out my wife. I know that she was downstairs watching and rooting me on, and she's a big supporter, big fan, as always. She has to be, right? The 2511 guys, I've had so much fun running with them for the last, I guess it's been nearly a year and a half now. But Chris, Brandon, this season, Briar, Jordan, Aiden, Matt Daniels. It's been a lot of fun running with these guys, just week in and week out, especially early on in the season before a lot of people started getting busy. They're just, we're typically competitive when we show up, and that's part of what makes it fun, right? So I also want to shout out the GLR admins. I think they've been doing a good job this season, and it's fun racing in this league, and I'm grateful that they let me show up, even though I'm not a playoff driver, and I've kind of been showing up here and there this season just to run well and run around these guys. And then you guys, I'm excited to watch the broadcast for GLR again for the first time in a few months. It seemed like it was a pretty decent race from my perspective. I know Barb and I were battling it out, and I hope it turned out to be a pretty good product for you guys. And then the last person I kind of want to shout out is Barb. It was a lot of fun running with him all race long, trying to just stay in front of him at the tail end of those green flag runs, and then I think we had a really good side by side battle that lasted 3 or 4 laps, somewhere in the middle of the race. And I always have really, really clean races with Will, and it's just a lot of fun when we get racing together.
Well, in his 6th start in the season, Zach Henry picks up the checkered flag here tonight at the Milwaukee Mile. Congratulations on a job well done. Go enjoy that victory, and best of luck next week when we head to the high banks of Talladega.
Awesome. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
And that's going to conclude our coverage here tonight from the Milwaukee Mile. I had to chuckle because we were up here and we were looking at the lap times and everything in terms of when the green flag pit stops were taking place, and we're going, oh my gosh, that's a lot of fall off. We bring in a driver, and it was a second and a half in fall off. That wasn't so bad. It's the different mentality between commentator and driver just always, it makes me chuckle because
and that's what makes
2 sides to each coin.
That's what makes them good drivers, where we don't sweat the small details. I mean, we were looking at it, we're sweating. I know if I was a driver, I was in the car, I'd be sweating a little bit. But that's just what makes them different. But that's what makes them good is, these things are just a small inconvenience to them. They don't have to worry about it. It'll be fine.
So we talked about here at the beginning of the night the non-playoff drivers, how they race the playoff drivers. Next week, we throw another little caveat into the mix. It's Talladega. You can't get to the front without having a drafting partner. We're going to see playoff contenders having, out of necessity, to work with each other to get up to the front of the field. Of course, there's a point of the race near the end where everybody says, okay, the gloves are off. Teammates, not teammates, we're not working with each other. It's every man for himself. But it's going to be interesting to see the diplomacy that takes place next week, and maybe non-playoff drivers working with playoff drivers working with playoff drivers, and see who's last man standing at the end.
Yeah, and that's part of what's going to make it fun, because you're going to see some guys who are going to really try to stay up front the entire race. Maybe some guys who we don't normally talk about. They're going to take some wild swings at it and just hope that everything works out in their favor.
A very entertaining way to kick off the playoffs here in Season 7 of the Great Lake Truck Series presented by Patti Engineering. Zach Henry, your winner here tonight at the Milwaukee Mile. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Be sure to tune in next week as we continue these playoffs on at Talladega. That'll be again next Tuesday night. Green flag scheduled to fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Flatout Racing Network. But Matt, it's been a great one here tonight. Some really exciting short track racing. Can't wait till Talladega next week. I appreciate you joining me in the booth.
I always appreciate being here.
Once again, thanks to everybody for tuning in tonight. We'll see you guys next Tuesday for the continuation of the playoffs here for the Great Lake Truck Series. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank